Hi, I'm Dan with Hartville RV Center, here to show you a walkthrough on an Eagle fifth wheel. Many of the things between these fifth wheels are going to have similarities, the appliances, many of the components inside, and even a lot of the same features. They just might have different placements. But I'm going to show you a walkthrough, kind of show you how to operate everything. Just keep in mind that some of your stuff might be in different compartments, different locations, things like that. So we'll start off with the battery. You do have a 12-volt deep cycle battery. They do come with one. Many of these fifth wheels are equipped to handle more. You could at least get two, possibly even three in here, or even larger batteries. This unit only has two connections, one for your positive, one for your negative. Again, some might be a little different. You might have two positive wires and two negative. The batteries aren't maintenance free. You do want to check them from time to time, at least twice a year. Just pop the caps up, check the water levels on it. If they do need filled up, use distilled water only. A lot of them are using thermal breakers now. That's what this positive wire connects to, is a thermal breaker inside. Some other units might use a blade fuse still, but it's very common to have a thermal breaker. If the amperage gets too high, that breaker will trip. After it cools down, it'll automatically reset, so you don't have to replace anything. Whenever you have batteries inside storage compartments like this one, they do have straps to hold them down and steady so they're not sliding around. Now this unit doesn't have automatic leveling. Some do, some don't. To be able to extend and retract your front jacks, it just has a toggle switch up front for extend and retract. You do have a manual operation inside of the propane compartment, which I'll show you in a little bit, so you can use a wrench to raise them up and down. Some you might have to gain access to the motors to attach a wrench or a ratchet to be able to run them up and down. Or if you have like a hydraulic system or an automatic leveling system, there'll be controls on the touchpad or the pump on a hydraulic system to be able to run them up and down. But this one's very simple and very basic. It just has an extend and retract for the front jacks. For the rear ones, it'll have a similar toggle switch on the back to be able to drop those down. And those are just stabilizer jacks. They aren't used for leveling. They just stop it from shaking around. So you want to make sure to get everything leveled before actually lowering all of your jacks. Also up here, we do have the breakaway cable. This is just a safety device. You'll have this attached to your vehicle when the trailer is connected. If for some reason the trailer were to come off, this cable will pull and pop out a pin, and what that does is engages the brakes on the trailer. So if you stop your vehicle, it'll stop the trailer before slamming into you. This is not a parking brake. This is for emergencies only. So you want to make sure to leave this in at all times. There's actually a warning tag on here saying do not leave it out for more than 20 minutes. Because when you pull this out, your brakes are engaged. This gets really hot, it will actually potentially melt. It'll actually damage your brakes and drain your battery. So always make sure that this is plugged in. It is just a safety device. You also have a couple light switches hidden underneath. Typically if you have front cap lights, the switches will be in this area. If they're not here, they'll be inside the main door. You do have a toggle switch for this light, and the two buttons over there are for your front cap lights. Again, sometimes you have switches on the inside, but these ones just happen to be on the outside. So here's your propane compartment. Most fifth wheels are going to have two 30-pound cylinders, and they will be filled up for you, so it'll be 60 pounds of propane. Whenever you have two propane containers, they are connected together on an automatic switch regulator. That also has a pressure gauge on it. Right now, with the tanks being off and closed, it's indicating that it's red, that there's no pressure coming in. When you're ready to use it, you open up the containers. This will disappear and just be a clear window. And when that happens, whatever side that this switch is pointed to will be your primary tank. You can point towards either side. Whatever side it is, it'll draw from. When that side gets empty, it'll automatically switch to the other side. When that happens, this will go back to red, indicating that there's no pressure coming from your primary tank. When that happens, all you do is just switch towards the other side, close and disconnect this one, go get it filled, and put it back on. In the meantime, you can still use this one. So if you're in the middle of cooking a meal, taking a shower, using your water heater, it'll still run from this tank even with this one being disconnected. So once you get a new one, you connect it, open it up, let it drain from this one, and it'll automatically switch back to that side. You just want to pay attention to this. Whenever it goes to red, it just lets you know that there's no pressure coming from whatever side it is pointed to. And these tanks could actually last you a long time depending on your usage. If you do a lot of cooking inside, a lot of cold weather camping where you're running your furnace, it will deplete a lot faster. But if you just typically use it maybe for your fridge every once in a while, or maybe the cooktop inside, these could even last you all summer. Really just depends on how much you use. So it's not like you have to check this all the time. Just periodically, you know, maybe just once a day, check to see if this is red. If it is red and that tank is open, you know that that tank is empty and needs to be filled. Also want to point out, inside this compartment, just straight back, is where your manual override is for your front landing gear. You take a long wrench and just run it up and down in case you were ever to lose all power or something happens to the motors. The access is inside of this. And again, it can be in different areas, but typically it is going to be by the front landing gear because it's going to be attached to the motors. This one just happens to be right behind the tanks. This is what they call your wet bay. This is where you're going to have your water connections. And in this compartment, you're also going to have some other connections as well. I think your satellite, cable, and auxiliary coax to go inside. You are prepped for a solar panel hookup rated for 20 amps. That's in here as well. And an outside shower. All your water connections are here, and they give you a nice diagram on where the valves need to be for every single setting. You have your sanitized setting. What that'll do is you can siphon in sanitized mixture into your fresh tank to be able to sanitize it. Or you can just fill your tank if you want to use it. Either way, the valves will be in this position. And what you'll do is you actually, for sanitize, have the siphon hose here and your sanitized mixture to be able to go inside. If you want to fill your tank, you're going to be using the right side. For winterizing, you'll use the same port, it says winterize above, and the same siphon hose to be able to suck antifreeze mixture into your water lines. And if you want to use your city water connection, use the right side. When you want to use your potable water holding tank, you actually have the valves set up in this position. And when you turn on the water pump with this switch, it'll suck from that tank and go to your fixtures. Whenever you're using the potable water holding tank, you do have to turn on the pump to be able to use it. When you're using your city water connection, you don't turn on anything. You're working off the pressure from the campground. All you do is just have your hose connected. Something we always recommend people get to is a water pressure regulator. It just prevents any high pressure water from going into the system and keeps everything safe and prevents leaks and damage to anything. Also in here you have your bypass valve for your hot water tank. It says real simply on there, bypass straight up, normal operation to your left. You want to put it in bypass before you winterize, because you don't need to put antifreeze into the system or into the hot water tank. After you clear out your antifreeze, you're ready to use it for the summer, just set it back to normal operation. Now when you introduce water to the system, it will fill up the tank and come out as hot water. In here too, you also have your gate valves. This unit has one black tank and two gray tanks. Black tanks are only for toilets. Gray tanks are for your sinks and showers. So this one will be for your toilet. This one will be for your bathroom, sink and shower. And the last one, when you have two gray tanks, typically just your kitchen sink will have its own separate tank. Some might only have one gray and one black. Some might have two of each. So they're all a little different. They all operate the same, and they'll be indicated which goes where. You also have a tank flush as well. This is just a nozzle inside of your black tank for your toilet, to where after you dump your toilet, the contents come out, you can connect your water hose to here, and there's a little nozzle inside of your tank to where it sprays water on the sidewalls and flushes everything out. And you just let it run for a few minutes. You don't have to use that, but I highly recommend it just because it cleans out as much as possible. Just make sure you leave your gate valve open as you use your tank flush so all the contents drain out. Whenever you are done draining tanks, make sure to put your valves back into place for travel. For your outside shower, you do get a shower hookup, and hidden right behind this area is a little access panel. Just the only thing behind there is your water pump in case you ever need to get to it for replacement or repair or anything. But all your controls and everything are in this compartment. You don't need to get access to the bypass valves in the hot water tank or to your pump to siphon anything. Everything can be done from the wet bay on this unit. Other Eagle fifth wheels might be set up differently. You might have valves or the siphon hose, instead of going here, you might actually have to attach it to the pump. So you want to check your owner's manual because each one is a little different, but they typically give you all the access to everything you need right in this bay. So I'll show you your termination valves here. When you empty your tanks, this is where they will come out. Sewer hose will attach the same way. Now this unit actually has two options. You can use it the old standard way, or it does have a SantaCon system. So I'll tell you about doing it the regular way first, and then if you have the option for the SaniCon system, I'll show you how to work that as well. So you detach the sewer hose here, put it down in the sewer. This is going to be your main gate valve. You can see some antifreeze came out of there. So when you have this valve open, you'll have your main valves for your black and gray tanks. You want to open up that valve and do each tank one at a time. I always recommend doing the black one first. Open up your black valve, let everything run out. Once that's done, close your black valve and do each of your grays one at a time. You never want to leave just the gate valves open and let things just run out, because what will happen is liquids will run out but solids will build up in the inside. So it is important to leave the gate valves closed until they are ready to dump, and then just again do each one at a time. And for your black tank as well, you do want to make sure you are using the black tank chemicals. They do help break everything down and make it more liquefied to prevent plumbing issues, and also help with odors as well. But on these systems, you can do it the traditional way by attaching the hose, putting it down in the sewer. If you do have the SaniCon system, you do things just a little bit differently. You want to make sure this valve is closed, and there'll be a valve underneath near where the pump is that needs to be open. So instead of everything just being exiting here, it'll all be diverted to the pump for the SaniCon system. You open it up, and it does give you instructions on how to use it and how to winterize it as well. But it's a built-in sewer hose. It comes out quite a bit. Has a little cap on there. Just got to twist off, and you put this down in your sewer. And what you do is, once that's in the sewer, open up your valves again one at a time. I always recommend doing the black one first. After you open the valve, you then turn on the SaniCon pump. There's a macerator pump inside that sucks everything from the tank, breaks it up, and then shoots it out. It comes out more than twice as fast than just gravity fed here. So it saves you a lot of time using these. It's a little bit cleaner. So whenever you're done, just put the cap back on and set it back into place. You don't have to mess with another sewer hose, picking it up, putting it back into storage. So they are a nice feature to have. You just want to do one at a time. When you do winterize it, when you put antifreeze through everything, you do want to make sure you get antifreeze inside of that pump by turning it on. And just run this until antifreeze comes out. After you've already put antifreeze into the system, you're going to have some in your tank. But it's a nice feature to have. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. It does work off a 12 volt, so you don't have to be plugged into an outlet to use it. So just things, nice little feature to have. And again, not all RVs are going to have this. So some Eagle fifth wheels might come equipped with it. Some might have it as an option later on. But it is a nice feature to have. Also, down below, it's indicated by low point drain. You'll have two valves to empty your water lines, in case you just want to clear out any water from your lines. It doesn't get out all of it, but it gets out most. You have one for your hot line, one for your cold. You just turn the valves to be able to drain them out. These are in different locations, but Jayco always indicates them by a sticker going around. So you just want to follow it around until you locate the sticker, and somewhere underneath that is where your valves are going to be. The only times you really need to use those is if you have some foul smelling water inside, or you're not going to be using it for a while and you just want to clear out the system. You open those valves up, let it drain out. And also for winterizing as well. Because you want to get out as much water as possible before pumping antifreeze into the system. You'll use this to drain the water out of your water lines. You will have another sticker indicating a low point drain for your fresh tank. That's your potable water holding tank. And again, those could be located elsewhere as well, but it'll be indicated by a similar sticker saying low point drain. That one will just drain your fresh tank, but it does not drain your water lines. You'll have two for your water lines, and you'll have a lower one hanging off to the side for your fresh tank. This is going to be your water heater. This one just happens to be, right near the wet bay and SaniCon system, but these can be elsewhere as well. They could be on the back, even door side, off door side near the rear. But if you ever need to find it, just look for the big black box. That's going to be your water heater. All your controls are going to be on the inside. These Dometic models do work on electric or gas. They can actually work on both at the same time for faster recovery. You do get a chart telling you that below. Electric, you do have to be plugged into an outlet to work. But if you're boondocking, you can use gas and battery to to be able to operate it. You do have to have battery power because it does have direct spark ignition for your flame sensor and to ignite it. But it can use propane to heat it up. The gas does heat it up twice as fast as electric. But during the night, if you're not using gas or you're not using the hot water that often, I do recommend leaving it on electric, just so you're not wasting propane throughout the evening if you were plugged into shore power. These are going to have a drain plug. It's a 15/16 socket to be able to get that out. They do make a special wrench that can go in there, but if you just use a deep well socket, can get it out as well. In the winter time, you do want to make sure that the plug is out just so the tank is drained. But in the spring, when you flush everything out and you're ready to fill the tank, just put your plug back in and make sure to put your bypass valve in the normal operation mode. And when you add water to the system, it will fill the tank. Now you do always want to make sure it has water in the tank before you ever turn it on. One way to tell is if you open up the pressure relief valve, just by lifting this little handle. With that open, if there were water in there, it would pour out. Right now, I have the drain plug out, so there's no water in there. So you want to make sure not to turn it on. So when you first fill it up with water, you want to open up a hot spigot to get all the air out, and it'll start hissing air at you. Once solid water's come out of the sink, you know it is full, and you can turn on your water heater. If you always want to double check, you can come out here, open that up. If water comes out, you know it's safe to turn on as well. There's some information on the side, just model number, serial number, things like that. But again, all your controls are going to be on the inside. Once you get the plug in there, you really actually don't have to come back here for much. Maybe just every once in a while and inspect it, make sure you don't have any bugs or nests or anything in here. The most common thing are bugs and spider webs, cobwebs getting built up inside the burner tube, preventing gas operation. To prevent that, use compressed air, blow it out periodically. It's just good maintenance upkeep on it. Especially if you haven't used it for a while after storage, it's a good idea to check in there, blow it out, just to make sure it is clear to use it on gas. This down below is just going to be your furnace exhaust. Again, this could be all around the camper in different areas. You don't have to do anything with this. This is just an exhaust when you're running your furnace for the gas fumes to come out. This does get hot when running the furnace, so make sure nothing's leaned up against it. Make sure a chair doesn't touch it, or if you have little kids or a dog, nobody's touching that while it is operating. If you haven't used it for a while, it's actually a really good idea to get like a flashlight. Just peek inside, make sure nothing's built up a nest in there. Mud daubers, very common for building nests inside of there. I've actually seen chipmunks get in there. It's not pretty. They do actually make a screen cover. It goes over top and still allows good airflow but prevents anything from getting inside. I highly recommend it. It's worth the investment because they stay on all the time. You never have to take it off, and it prevents stuff like that from getting inside. But if you don't have the screen protector, definitely make sure to check it periodically, make sure nothing's building up a nest inside. This RV does come equipped with the 50 amp shore cord connection. Some of the smaller ones like the HTs might only have 30 amp, but they're going to connect the same way. The cord can only be plugged in one way, can't be upside down or anything. So you just line up the notches, push it in. Once it's in, you're actually going to turn it a little clockwise to lock it into place. And you have your weather guard. That makes it a nice secure connection, also prevents water from getting inside. Now the 50 amp is going to have the 4-prong connection. So always want to check with the campsite you're going to make sure they do have a 50 amp receptacle. 30 amp is going to be the most common, but nowadays everybody has a 30 and a 50 there. So just want to make sure check what they have. If they have a 50 amp rated system, connect directly to it. It'll tell you indicated on here, as long as you have two blue lights on, that you are receiving correct power from the outlet, and everything inside can be used. If they only have a 30 amp, you can get an adapter to connect this to a 30 amp connection receptacle. But by doing so, you're now only rating the RV for a 30 amp outlet. So you want to be careful using everything inside. Whenever you're on an adapter or if you have to use an extension cord, you want to limit your use. You don't want to be running everything at once, especially like your air conditioner and your microwave. Those are going to pull the most amperage and could definitely cause some issues tripping some breakers. When you're plugged into a 50 amp receptacle, you still want to be cautious, not using too much, but you don't have to be as careful because it is rated for a 50 amp system. And you do have 2 hot legs to where it splits the system. So 50 amp, you get a lot more options to be able to use things throughout the coach. And this is a 36-foot cord. So most likely at normal campgrounds, you're not going to need an extension cord. But you can plug this in at home using an adapter to go from this down to a 15 amp. If you want to get ready for a trip, that is fine to do. Just again, be careful what you're using. You know, when you drop this down to a 15, just make sure to really only use your lights. You can get your fridge cold. You could run your furnace if you wanted to. You know, even watch TV, stuff like that. You just don't want to be using big things like your air conditioner and your microwave when using an adapter. Many of the RVs nowadays are coming prepped for a backup camera. If you check on the back side of your RV and you have a big black oval box up there, that means you are prepped for it. It means it does come with a mount, which that black box is, and it is already pre-wired. So installation of those backup cameras are actually fairly easy if you want to do it yourself. Really just remove the cover, plug in the camera, connect some wiring, and then you pair it and it's ready to go. The most important thing with those backup cameras, when they are prepped for it, they are connected in the wiring system to the marker lights on the roof. So you do have to have your running lights on your vehicle for the camera to get power. So you can't use it the whole time you're traveling, day and night. You just want to make sure your running lights are on. You don't have to only use it during reverse. It's actually handy to have for changing lanes on the highway, stuff like that. But when you do see that black Furrion box, it means it is prepped for it. And it is only for the Furrion cameras. If you want a different camera, you would have to get a different mount. You could use the same wiring, but some adjustments might be made. But when they are prepped for the Furrion camera, they make it easy for you to install. On the back of this one, you do have your rear stabilizer jacks. It just has an extend and retract toggle button. These do not level the unit. All they do is just help stop it from shaking around. When you lower them, let them hit the ground and just kind of add some pressure and then come to a stop. Don't force them down any more than that. They're not made to withstand lifting the camper up. They just help stop it from shaking around. If you're in a wet, muddy area, it's not a bad idea to put a wider foot base under there using some blocks or links levelers just to make it a little more stable. If for some reason you lose all power or the switch isn't working or something, you still can manually crank it on the back side using the same wrench you would on the front jacks as well. It's a big long wrench you'll have inside, but you still can operate it manually if need be. But these do work off the 12-volt system. You don't have to be plugged in for this. You just have to have battery power for it to work. So a lot of them are coming equipped nowadays with outside kitchens. You might see a little dorm-sized fridge, cooktop, grill, some different options out there. These little refrigerators only work on 120 volt. They will not work off of your battery. You do have to be plugged into an outlet for this to work. If you are plugged into an outlet, like at home, using an adapter or something, you want to be limiting what you are using. They are now coming with an on and off switch on the inside. So if you don't want to use it, you don't want to be using that extra power, you can turn it off or just unplug it outside. But these only work when plugged into shore power. They will not work off of battery power. Outside on this one, you do have another Gfci outlet. You do have one in your bathroom and one here. Some will have two. If you just have a regular outlet here, it'll be controlled by the Gfci inside. So this specific unit does have two. Sometimes you only have one, but you do have another one outside. So if the outlet's not working, just make sure to press it in to reset it. These little things are for the Furrion LITs. What they are is a Bluetooth speaker. And they have other features too. They have flashlights on them and kind of fancy, but this little box here is actually a charge port. So you can attach it to here to be able to charge the speaker. It's just an accessory. They aren't really come with them, but we do have them available in the parts department if you'd like one. And you also get charge ports for USB. Now these will work off of a 12-volt battery power. You don't have to be plugged into an outlet for this to work, just battery power. So if you want to charge your cell phone, stuff like that, you can actually use these USB charge ports as well. These Furrion Bluetooth speakers are really nice accessories, and they are coming with charge ports for them already installed. You might also have a cooktop or a grill on the outside. They do work off of propane. You'll get a gas line that connects underneath, and it runs to a gas port underneath the camper as well. Just make sure whenever you close these up that they are cooled down. Don't close them up when they're hot. When you see these vents, these are the back of your refrigerator. Just an access panel to be able to get some of the components inside. All your controls are going to be from the inside. So you really don't have to get back here much, maybe once, twice a year, just inspect it to make sure everything looks okay. If you do have issues with the refrigerator, there is a black box in here that has a couple fuses that you want to check. But other than that, you really don't have to come back here. These are vented lids, so make sure never to cover these up, never tape them. It does need good airflow to go through the compartment to release the heat built up inside. They do have condensation drip tubes. This one's tucked away a little bit. When the door is open, you want to make sure that it is sticking out. So if condensation builds up inside of the fridge, it has somewhere to go coming out. The most important thing with the fridge is you do want it to be as level as possible, because they are a boiler system. They feed off of gravity. So you want to make sure you're not on a steep incline trying to operate the fridge. As long as it's comfortable enough to camp in, walk in, sleep in, it is okay to operate the fridge. You just don't want to be on a steep incline while doing it. It will work off of 120 volt being plugged into electric, but if you're dry camping, you can operate it on gas to be able to operate the fridge as well. They do take a lot longer than a compressor fridge would, like you're at home, to get cold. So it is a good idea to make sure to plug it in, get it cold the day before leaving on a trip. And they are well insulated, so they will stay cold for a while. But just keep in mind, it does take longer than a residential fridge to get cold. But other than that, all your controls are on the inside. Just periodic inspection or maintenance out here if need be. All the Eagles that we have are going to be coming equipped with the electric awnings, where you just use the toggle switch inside to extend it or retract it. What's nice about the electric systems is you don't have to have them all the way out or all the way in. Like right now, we can only extend it so far because of another camper. Maybe where you're camping at, there's a tree in your way, something else, some kind of other obstruction. You can only take it out partially. You don't have to have it all the way out or all the way in. So you can just stop it wherever you want. When you're extending it, you do want to make sure to let go of the button when it is fully extended and you see the valance drop down. If you were to continue to hold down the button, the motor will keep going and it'll roll up backwards on itself. It is okay, just extend it back out and roll it back in. You don't want to roll it up backwards, it can stretch the fabric. When you do have it out, if you want to adjust the pitch for water runoff or maybe some more shade, you can drop both sides. You can adjust the pitch. This one's got a click button to be able to drop it down. Some of the other Solera ones might just have a pivot arm where you turn. There's a few different options out there. When you do roll it up, you want to make sure it is locked back into place, just to prevent it from kinking or bending as you roll it back in. The most important thing when it comes to these awnings is wind. You want to be very cautious of what the weather is outside. High winds coming up, storms, anything above 20-mile-an-hour winds, you want to take it in. I'm cautious, even a little lower than that. So you just want to be careful with it, keep an eye on it. Especially if your area is by the beach, you get some high winds coming by, you do want to take a little more precaution with that. If you are leaving the campground for the day, or even at night, you don't know what's going to happen during the night, just roll the awning in. It's an electric awning, you have a switch inside, it just takes 30 seconds to roll it in. In the morning, roll it back out. Just to be safe, but you do want to be careful with it because it's a big sail hanging off the side of it. Wind can damage these and rip them off, so just be very cautious. And again, if you don't know what's going to happen or you're leaving for the day or something, just take the awning back in to be safe. When you do run it in, hold the button down until the awning just comes to a stop, and that's locked position. There's nothing else you need to do for travel. It just keeps it in place with the motor. Those long rectangles at the top that say Solera side toppers, this one comes prepped for the slide topper installation, specifically for the Solera brand. It's just an accessory you can get where you can attach a slide topper to the top, and it's just an awning cover going over your slide. So when your awning is, or when your slide is extended, it does have a covering on top. It just helps prevent tree branches, pine cones, other debris from landing on top of your slide, so you don't have to inspect as much before you run it in. Without slide toppers, you do want to check it before you ever run it in. Make sure you don't have any debris on top. So if you run the slide in and something was on top, it can damage the seals, which could potentially cause leaks in the future. But just so you know, this one is prepped for that. Not all of them come with that, but if you do see these rectangles on there, it just saves you a lot of time on the installation cost, because it's already has the mounts and everything. They really just kind of throw it up, and secure it. But they are prepped for it when you do see those little rectangles on your top fascias going across. Alright, so now we'll show you some stuff inside. Right inside the front door is typically where you're going to find your main control center. You'll have your slide out room controls, your awning controls, some lights, and a few appliances like your water heater, water pump will be on here, and also have your monitoring panel. Like this one even has a couple blank spots. This is a pretty standard panel that they use. If you only have 2 slide outs, you only have 2 slide out switches. This one has 3, so you'll have 3 switches. So it's a pretty standard board, but if you don't have a component, there just won't be a switch there. They're all very similar. Your awning for your extend and retract. And again, when you're bringing in your awning, just make sure to hold the button down until it comes to a stop to make sure it is locked in place. This does have 2 different slide systems being used. One of them is going to be a Schwintech one, which is actually going to be your kitchen slide and your bedroom slide. And the middle one, which is going to be your dining room table slide, that's going to be using a through frame system that'll have a clutch engage when it comes to a stop. So you actually want to hear that clutch clicking when you're running it all the way out or all the way in to let you know it is fully extended or retracted. When you do hear that, it is fully extended or fully retracted, and it creates a good seal on the outside. If you're running it and you don't hear that and you stop it too soon, it's not going to have a good seal, and water, bugs, things like that could get in and damage some things. So you want to make sure it is all the way out or all the way in while using it, or storage. The other 2 slides are Schwintech ones. So when you bring them in, control boards, they'll run them in and out, but they will come to a stop on their own and you won't hear anything. You actually want to hold the button down. After it stops, hold it down for another second or 2 for it to settle in position. Because these can actually sometimes get a little off side to side, and for them to resync, you do have to hold the button down for an extra second or 2 to make sure that it is seated properly. So you're not going to hear any loud noises like on the other system. They will just come to a stop, but just make sure when they do come to a stop, hold the button down for an additional second or 2 just to make sure they all are fully seated down. You have some light switches up here. The red switches, these are going to be, 2 of them are for your water heater. And again, on these Atwood systems, they can be on electric and gas at the same time for faster recovery. So you can actually have them both on if you wanted to. Once it gets up to temperature, if you don't want to waste your propane, you can turn off the gas and leave it on electric to maintain the temperature. But electric does take longer to heat up than it does on gas, but you're not wasting any propane on electric. This does have a fault light. If you're trying to light it on gas and it does not light, after about a minute this light will turn on to let you know there's a fault. Most likely you either ran out of propane or maybe you forgot to open up the cylinder. Just turn it back off, check your gas. When you're ready, turn it back on and it'll try again. If you keep having a fault with it, check that burner tube. That's where we get the most common issues, are with bugs, insects, things like that built inside the burner tube. At the top on this one, you'll have your monitoring panel, tell you how full or empty everything is. And again, this one does have 2 gray tanks, so you have gray 1 and gray 2. Gray 2 is going to be your kitchen sink, or they sometimes call it the galley sink. Gray 1 is typically going to be the main bathroom with your shower and your sink up top. And then black is going to be your toilet. And again, some could have 2 black tanks. H2O is going to be your freshwater holding tank, so you can take water with you. So as you fill it up outside, it'll actually reach full here. And as you use it, it'll deplete down to empty. And the freshwater tank does have an overflow to where when you're filling it up outside, you'll see water start shooting out from underneath the camper. That'll let you know it is full, so you don't have to run in here and keep checking to see how, when it hits full. It'll let you know outside as well. And the last one's going to be battery. You have 4 different settings. You have charged, good, fair, and weak. Right now, the battery we have installed is just at fair. And we do have a bunch of lights on, stuff like that. We're not plugged into an outlet. When you are plugged into an outlet, it'll actually be charging the battery. So this will be reading all the way at the top. And while you're traveling, your battery will also be charging as well from the alternator of your tow vehicle. So if you're just camping and solely using your battery, it's just a good idea to check it every once in a while to see how it's doing. As long as it's fair above, everything will still work. Your lights will still work, your furnace, your slide outs will still run in and out. They just might be kind of slow. Once it gets down to weak, that's when you definitely want to make sure to get it recharged, because you might run into issues with things not working properly. But if you ever do need to recharge it, just make sure to plug it in to an outlet to be able to charge the battery, or plug it into your tow vehicle. If you do plug it into your tow vehicle to charge, make sure your vehicle is running so it doesn't drain your vehicle battery. And some other things up here too, just have some other additional light switches down below. If you see a light switch like this with a little lever on the side that moves up and down, this is just a dimmer switch. The center button doesn't do anything. That's for additional accessories. You're really just using the lever to dim the lights. These are going to be the main light switches here. Typically these are just the ceiling lights in the living area, but sometimes they can have multiple ones for different areas. But this is going to be your main control center, so pretty much all the components you need to operate are going to be within here. I'll go over some appliances here. Your microwave, it's kind of a standard household microwave. It only works off of 120 volt, so you do have to be plugged in to shore power to be able to use this. This will not work off your battery. If you ever run into issues with your microwave, a lot of times inside the compartment right next to it's where it's plugged in at. You want to make sure it is plugged in, maybe you accidentally pulled out the cord or something. But just, and these do pull a lot of amperage. So if you're plugged into an adapter, you have it plugged in at home, you want to make sure not to use the microwave because it is possible you could trip the breaker. So you just want to be cautious with that. Down below is your stovetop. Most of them now are coming equipped with the Furrion stoves, where they do have a direct spark igniter. Always turn it clockwise, never turn it counterclockwise to be able to ignite it. And you just can turn on one burner at a time, or all three. And just by turning this, it does send a spark to each one at the same time. Something new they started is this will actually send a spark to your oven as well, so you can light your pilot light. You have to set this to the flame, and actually hold it down while turning this. And just keep turning that until the flame is lit. Once the flame's lit, you can leave it sit there. When you're ready to use it, set it to the temperature you want to turn it on and off. When you're done, if you plan on using it again, you can move it back to the flame and it'll stay lit. But if you're totally done and you're not going to be using it for a while, always set it off so you don't have, you're wasting propane. And on these models you do have two separate light switches. The top one just illuminates the top bar. The bottom one illuminates the top bar and the inside of the oven as well. These do have the glass stovetop. You want to make sure these are down for travel. And on the back too, the very back, a lot of them are coming with these knife blocks, these little slits here, and so you can actually just store your knives. Those aren't a vent. The vent's actually going to be on the back of the oven. But the very back, that is a knife block, so you can store your knives safely. This is your refrigerator. Most of them are going to come with the Domestics. Yours might be a little different, but typically it's going to have the same control board. Lately they've been putting them inside of the fridge door, just so you don't have to look at the buttons, I guess. When you open it, you'll just have a simple on and off button. You'll turn it on, and it'll be on the auto mode. When it's on auto, it goes off your main power source. If you're plugged into an outlet, it'll be on AC for power. If you're disconnected from shore power, it'll automatically switch to gas. They do that so in case you're at the campground, there's a power failure, or somebody accidentally unplugs your cord, it'll automatically switch it to gas to keep it running for you. But when power is restored, it will automatically switch back to run off of electric, so you're not wasting propane. So right now it is trying to ignite. I have the propane turned off, just to show you if there was a power failure, you do want to make sure it does light on gas. So right now it's trying to ignite. If it fails, this check light will come on, and lately they've been beeping too, right there. So if you hear a beep like that, that indicates it did not ignite. So you either are out of propane, maybe you forgot to turn off, or maybe you forgot to open up the container, something, or it's possible it just had some air in the lines. So it's always a good idea to check to make sure it does ignite on gas before you go on a trip, or maybe once when you're at the trip, or if you're leaving for the day. And to do that, all you do is push this button off, to take it off of auto, and it'll automatically go to gas with this button out. It'll, even if you're plugged into an outlet, if you push this button out, it'll go to gas to ignite. After 30 seconds, if the check light doesn't come on, then you know you're good. And you just set it back to auto, and it'll switch back to electric to keep it running for you. And that way, you know, if there is a power failure or somehow, you know, your cord comes unplugged, you know it'll automatically switch to gas and it won't spoil your food. But you always want to make sure to keep it in the auto setting. You do have temperature control from 1 to 5, 5 being your coldest. Set it back to 1 for cold. And if you ever want to turn it off, just press the button out to turn it off. Another thing with the refrigerator is you do want to make sure it is level as possible, just because it is a boiler system and it feeds off of gravity. So you don't want to be on like a steep incline running your refrigerator. You do want to make sure it's as level as possible. As long as it's level enough to camp in, walk in, sleep in, it'll be fine for the fridge. Just don't be on a steep incline when doing it. Here's your entertainment center. Your radio could be in different locations. This one is hidden behind a compartment door. Sometimes they're lower and off to the side, but they are going to be typically around your TV. These are radios, CD players, and DVD players. Not all of them have those features. Most of them do when it comes with the Furons. If they accept a disc, they can play CDs and DVDs. But some of them are coming just radios nowadays too. And they do have features like Bluetooth to be able to stream music. They have auxiliary inputs, USB inputs. Some of them even have an HDMI input, so you can connect like a game system that'll go from here to your TV. So that way you can have the audio come through the speakers of the RV as well, not just the TV. You do have 3 zones of speakers. Typically zone 1 is going to be your main living area. Zone 2 can be further back in the living area or even in the bedroom. And zone 3 is going to be your outside speakers. And you can have just 1 on, you can have 2 on, you can have all 3 on if you wanted to. Typically if you're watching a movie, using this as a DVD player to go to your TV, you might not want your outside speakers to be on and adjust your inside. So it's just something to keep in mind. You know, have your speaker settings set properly. If you don't want them to come through your RV speakers at all, adjust the TV. You can turn all the zones off and still use this as the DVD player. It's a good idea to check the owner's manual. There's a lot of features on these. You can set an alarm clock. You went through Bluetooth. You can actually make phone calls through them and stuff, and hear it through the speakers. But this is already set up and prepped for a DVD player going directly to your TV. Just make sure your TV is set to the HDMI output. For the TVs, they're all going to have a different travel lock position. This one actually just pulls out to be able to turn, swivel. But the locking position, you want to push it all the way back in. It has these bungee cords that strap over the corners to be able to keep it in place. So always make sure it is locked in place. Something you should know too is that the radio will work solely off your battery. It is a 12-volt system, so you can use it as a radio, CD player, strictly off your battery. You don't need to plug it into an outlet for that. But your TV, you do have to be plugged into an outlet because it works off 120 volt. But if you're out boondocking, you can still use your radio and your CD player up top. But if you want to watch movies and DVDs, you do have to be plugged into shore power. Another thing for shore power is going to be your fireplace. Not all of them come with fireplaces. This one does have one though. And again, these only work when being plugged into an outlet as well. They will not work off your battery. They're a good electric heat source. They heat up very well, but they are non-ducted, so all your heat is just coming out here. So it is hard to get the heat up into the bedroom. But they do work really well, and they save you from propane. Really help on some chilly nights. As the power button, this model has a timer where you can have it turn off after like 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hour, I believe up to 5. Temperature adjustments to where it'll turn on and off to maintain the temperature. And high and low speeds. They all have a few different functions, so make sure to read the owner's manual on it. But these are very nice to have. Like I said, you know, they're non-ducted, so on like really cold nights, good idea to still use your furnace. Try to get better airflow going through. But these are fantastic for taking the chill off a cool night. Did want to point out that this sticker here, it's not just an advertisement. If you do decide to go solar power, you can actually get a solar monitor, tell you how the system's doing, what kind of charge you're getting, things like that, from GoPower. And behind the sticker, you are going to have wiring. So this is where you'd actually install the monitoring panel if you wanted it. If you don't ever plan on getting it, this is just a sticker. It can peel right off. You can get rid of it. It doesn't have to stay here. But they are letting you know that, you know, it is prepped and all the wires are behind here to be able to hook up the monitoring panel for solar. Just below it is going to be your thermostat to be able to control your air conditioner, your fan, and your furnace. It will tell you when it's off what the temperature is inside. Has the indicator what setting you have it on. You just press the button to change it. It'll start off with fan, high and low, and what that'll do is just run your ceiling fan.
Sales, you have a call on line 1. Sales, line 1, please.
You set it to cool, and it'll be on high or low, and that'll run your air conditioner either on high speed or low speed. When you have it just set to high or low, what'll happen is that your fan will constantly run at that speed, like cool high. The fan will always run at high, and the compressor turns on and off to maintain the temperature. Same with low. If you want the entire system to shut down, you want to set it to auto, either high or low. So when it reaches the temperature, the whole AC unit will shut down. But if you want constant airflow, take it off of auto. And then the setting after that is heat, and heat's going to be for your furnace, and furnace only works off of propane. And to adjust the temperature, you just hit the up and down button and it'll turn on and off to maintain the temperature. When you do set it to off, if you're using your furnace, the furnace will still continuously run for an additional 60 to 90 seconds to clear out the combustion chamber and get any residual heat out. So you always want to wait. Once you set it to off, you know, after a couple minutes, it will actually shut down. Don't think that it's still running when it's not supposed to be, but it eventually will shut down. So here's your main distribution center. These are going to be located in different areas as well. Most of the time they're near like the main hallway or front cupboard storage areas, but they aren't going to be hidden typically. So just look for the black box. And behind there you'll find all your breakers for everything that runs off 120 volt and all the fuses for everything that runs off of 12 volt. You will have a list tell you what they go to. This is a 50 amp system, so you're going to have the main 50 amp breaker that powers both legs. So if you were to shut that off, none of your 120 volt has power. If you want to shut off certain circuits, you can flip one off. And it's just like a household one to where if they trip, make sure to flip it all the way off and then back up to turn it back on. 12 volt fuses, standard blade fuses. These can be purchased at any auto parts store. This one's going to have mainly just 15. Sometimes you'll have 20, even up to 30. This 30 amp one here, it's actually a resettable one. So you don't have to worry about that one actually blowing. But these, if they were to draw too much amperage, would actually blow and need replaced. But if you have any power issues with anything, this is the first place you want to check. Located in the bathroom of this unit is your GFCI protect outlet. Every RV is going to have at least one. Some of the larger units will have two. They can be in the outside kitchen area. You might have one in the living area down by your kitchen sink, and then up in the bathroom. Typically there's at least one, or there's always going to be at least one, but sometimes there can be two. But if you notice some of your outlets aren't working, this is the first thing you want to check. Press the reset button to reset it. But it is going to be connected to all the outlets near wet areas, so your bathroom, kitchen, and outside outlets are all going to be on the same circuit. Something unique to these Eagle fifth wheels too are these newer style roof vents, to where you actually don't have to crank them up. They actually just have a turn lever to be able to open or close it. When it is closed, you can still use a fan by pushing the button, and it'll just recirculate air, kind of blowing it around. When you want to open, turn to the side, and the side flaps come down to allow the air to come up and then go out of the unit to be used as an exhaust fan. And what's nice about that, it's kind of a mushroom cap on top, to where even with these vents closed right now, rain's not going to get in. So you can actually leave this open all year round if you wanted to. While it's raining, snowing, you don't have to worry about anything getting in the sides. You can also have it like that during travel too. So it's a nice little feature to have, and it's very simple. You just either close the vents or open the vents to the outside. And then the red push button is what starts the fan. Did just want to point out that inside this cabinet, just your main wardrobe cabinet inside your front door, there is going to be a little sticker. It says one control on it. This is a new app from LCI. You can actually scan this QR code to be able to download the app onto your phone, or you can just search for it in the Apple Store or Google Play. But it is just called LCI One Control, and this allows you to operate everything on your control center from your phone. Certain lights, your slide outs, your awning, even sometimes your water pump, water heater. Each one has some different controls based on how it is set up for your RV. Some have more controls than the others. Some might just be for slides and awning. But you will need this sticker to be able to log in, because it'll have the username and the password written underneath. These stickers are kind of small, but they're typically hidden around the control center area, because directly to the right on this is where your control center is going to be. So behind this panel is actually where the controller is going to be for the wireless system. So it's going to be near your entrance door. If you have trouble locating it, just give us a call. We can help you track it down. But it's a real tiny sticker, but you want to make sure to hang on to this and keep this information, because this is how you log into it on your own RV. These are very specific to each RV, so it's not like you can use it on somebody else's. This is only for yours. So make sure to just check the sticker to be able to log into it. But you can get them through the Apple Store or through Google. Just want to point out some safety stuff. Every RV is going to be equipped with a fire extinguisher, and they're going to be right by your entrance door. It is a BC fire extinguisher, so it's going to be rated for liquid and electrical. It's not rated for trash fire, so don't use it on a bonfire. Strictly interior of the RV. It's a little green button on top. You want to push it down. As long as it pops back up, it's still good. Still has a charge. Maybe once a trip, just periodically, you just want to check it. But if you ever push it down and it stays down, it lost its charge inside, and you definitely want to get it replaced. And every RV is going to come with a smoke detector, which uses a 9-volt battery. It's going to be located on your ceiling, typically in the main living area or main hallway. But it does have a 9-volt battery that needs replaced periodically. The one thing that does not have a battery is going to be your carbon monoxide and LP detector. And again, they're going to be located in the main living area, typically around the kitchen. Sometimes can be underneath the dinette booth. Sometimes they're a little hidden, but they're going to be inside to be able to catch any gases that may come out. But they are hardwired in, so you don't have to worry about changing batteries. As long as you have power to the RV, it does function. And they do check for carbon monoxide and LP propane gas. And lastly, the best thing to do for RVs is keep up on the maintenance to make sure it lasts a long time and make sure you're safe as well. Things to keep in mind for traveling: make sure keep an eye on how many miles you've been driven, because your bearings for your wheels do need to be repacked every 12,000 miles or once a year, whatever comes first. So if you're doing a lot of cross-country trips, a lot of traveling, make sure to keep track of those miles in case you need to get it repacked within that year. If you're doing more local trips here and there, doing it once a year is fine. Also pay attention to your tire pressure as well. These are coming filled with nitrogen, which does help promote more even tread wear by keeping even pressure inside of the tire at all times. If they ever do get low, you can add air. You don't have to add just nitrogen. But you definitely want to keep an eye on that. Make sure they're set properly to the max PSI that they're rated for. They're all going to be a little different based on the tire size, so make sure to check your tire chart on the side of your camper or the wheels themselves. Other things to keep up on would be all the sealant going around the outside of your RV. Everything attached to the sides is going to have like a silicone sealant going around the outside. All your vents, maybe your outside speakers, marker lights, things like that. Just keep an eye on those. Make sure the sealant doesn't open up, crack, because you want to make sure no water gets inside. And then lastly, it's going to be your roof. At least twice a year, more if you're able to, but at least twice a year, you want to climb up on your roof and inspect everything. Everything up there, all your vents are going to be screwed down, and then they put a special lap sealant going over top of that. The lap sealant does adhere to the rubber much better than anything else. You never want to use anything silicone based. It will not stick to that. So make sure you are using RV rated lap sealant on your roof. And just from use over time, UV rays, weather changing conditions, even tree branches going over top of your roof, driving through a heavily wooded area, can scrape and open up the sealant on your roof. So that's why you want to get up there and check it periodically, make sure everything still looks good. Check the condition of the roof material as well. It is durable, but it could get a little scuff or scratch or something in it. And if there's any openings, you do need to patch it and reseal it. And also check your roof vents as well. Make sure nothing's cracked. We have had instances where a tree branch might fall on the roof and crack a roof vent. So you just want to get up there, check it out, make sure everything's okay, at least a couple times a year. There's something else. I forget now.
Traveling with the vents open.
Yes, yeah, when I mentioned the vent. Another important thing too on the roof are going to be your roof vents. You want to make sure they're all shut down when they're traveling. The one in the bathroom that just opens and closes with just a simple turn, that one can actually be open during travel. But any of them you actually have to crank up to lift up, make sure they are down during travel. Or when there's bad weather out. You don't want it to be open when it's raining because it'll just come right inside. So when you're buttoning everything up for travel, make sure your slides are all the way in. Make sure your windows are closed. If you have anything loose, like your dinette chairs, you make sure they're strapped down into place. Things like that. If you have glassware in any of your cabinets, make sure they are like wrapped in a towel or nice and secure. And just make sure your roof vents are closed, all your doors, make sure your shower doors are closed. Just make sure it's buttoned up really well for travel, just to make sure everything's protected and safe for when you arrive at your next destination.